Hello, and welcome back to the Better Divorce podcast. And just in case you don't know who I am, my name is Paulette Rigo. I'm the CEO and founder of Better Divorce Academy and the author of #1 best-selling book, Better Divorce Blueprint, the book, the workbook, the online course, and the audiobook, and yes, the host of the Better Divorce podcast. I bring experts to you in their fields to give you resources and answers. Today, I am going to delve into healing because healing is a big problem with divorce. Many people hold on to it. They hold resentment, anger, abandonment issues, fear, and I don't want you to do that. Now, not all divorce has to be traumatic, so deep breath, everyone. You don't want it to all seem doom and gloom. There are many people that go through divorce like champs, but at some point they're probably kidding themselves. There's much to process just from being your new self and re-identifying your self-worth, and all of those labels that you think you are going to be altered. So today I've invited a lovely expert. Her name is Megan Sherer. She's a holistic therapist, which I love because of my yoga Ayurveda training. And she's also a relationship coach, speaker, author, and facilitator with 11 plus years of experience in leading women back to their most authentic self. And I find with the work I've done, I did a lot of that journeying too. I had a career that I absolutely felt trapped in. And I had a marriage that just felt uncomfortable. And when I finally had the courage to leave the job and leave the marriage, I had no idea who I was. I felt like I was wearing someone else's shoes, brushing my teeth with someone else's toothbrush. I just felt lost. And if I had known prior to that job and prior to that marriage to do a little bit of that work and mature and grow into a version of myself, I probably wouldn't have gotten stuck or trapped or, I don't know, lost in that setting. So hopefully you're not 22 and listening to me, and you're a little bit wiser now. But, getting into a career really young and getting into a marriage very young can work for some people, but for others it didn't. And for me, it just felt uncomfortable. But Megan's a creator of Love Alignment Method. I love that. And the self-care space therapy platform. She's helped thousands of women create transformation in their lives and relationships. She's also the author of a new book called Choose Yourself, and it's out May 6th. So you should probably put that on your list of things to get ASAP. So welcome to the show, Megan. I'm really glad you're here. This is a very important, much needed topic.
Thank you so much for having me, Paulette. I am so happy to be here and to get to share with your community.
Well, thanks, Megan. I know that when I'm mediating with clients, there's usually some angst between them, some more than others. On a scale of 1 to 10, the lowest I've seen is like a 2. They walk in, we sit down, we write the agreement, and, they're like, thanks. And others, my goodness, it's a 10 plus. They can't be in the same room together. There's a lot of anger, frustration, fear, control issues, manipulation, secrecy, hiding. And those are typically the ones that will end up litigating if there's financial concerns or child custody concerns. But when I'm working with people individually in not mediation, but I'm just educating them about divorce as a whole or the process of divorce and really making wise choices. You don't get a dress rehearsal. There's only one shot at this. You have to do it wisely, or it's very expensive and very long. So the reason I'm painting this picture is that there's a lot of trauma, right? There's a lot of anger and frustration, and it isn't all easy peasy. Other than the domestic relations financial affidavit, there's not a big roadmap. Everybody has a different trajectory and goal. They also have different core values that they want to hold on to, or even worse, they don't have an alignment of what those core values are. So they're really just doing what they think they should. So when is well, let's start a little bit with your journey, because I always find it so beneficial for people when I introduce them to a new expert, that they know a little bit about them as a person, as a professional, and why they do what they do. So why would you possibly want to do this work? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's so much in your story that I relate to. I started practicing yoga and meditation at a very young age, and that was such a formative part of my life, not only from a mindfulness perspective, but ultimately sort of a spiritual tool that has guided me through a lot of the rough chapters in my life and healing a lot of my own trauma. And I've just been somebody who's always been fascinated by emotions, by how other people feel and why we feel what we feel, and just really wanting to go deep with people and understanding like what's going on here, and looking for pattern recognition in it as well. And just kind of as a by a series of, call them unfortunate events, but I think it's a little bit more divine inspiration. I went through a series of back-to-back trauma in my early 20s when I was about 22 that forced me into my own healing journey and forced me to discover new tools and modalities. I had been in talk therapy for years and had felt kind of stuck with it. Like I had all this self-awareness about my patterns. I could see the patterns. I could see the issues that I kept perpetuating in my life, but I felt stuck in them. Couldn't really understand how to change them. And when I started to learn more about somatic healing, parts work, and really understanding how our body stores and encodes memories of trauma, that's when I really started to see progress in my own personal healing journey. And it was just something that I knew I was meant to teach others. I knew I had to share what I was learning. And I get a lot of joy, actually, about a joy from helping people navigate their inner world, navigate their relationship with who they are, what they feel, what they want, their relationship with their body, feeling at home within themselves. And so, even though the nature of what we're exploring can be heavy at times, whether there's a history of trauma or not, the other side of it is always filled with so much lightness. And when you get to that place of alignment in your relationship with yourself, I think it's such a freeing, liberating, beautiful thing that we all deserve to experience. So I can't imagine not doing this work.
Isn't that how you know that you fulfilled your dharma or purpose, when you can't imagine doing anything else?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
I'm curious about the difference or the similarity of holistic therapy versus other modalities or methods of therapy. You know, many times you'll see a mental health practitioner or a therapist or a counselor, or I could use lots of other words, but be behind or after someone's name with little acronyms, right? Some people have one, some have 12, but no exaggeration, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm curious, for those that are, you know, curious minded people too. I tend to attract curious people. I'm a researcher and deep thinker. I would much rather have one deep conversation with one person than 30 superficial, fluffy conversations with one person. I like taking deep dives. So I'm really curious about that. You know, a lot of people have called me a holistic divorce coach because of my holistic training, in the psychological, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, spiritual side of divorce, but also the judicial, legal, financial, residential, lending, insurance, taxes, co-parenting side. It's a holistic approach, as in the whole person. But
Mhm.
as I'm not a mental health practitioner, although some people have accused me of being one, or not practicing as one, but just serving that sort of, I don't know, empathy model, right? Of really deeply caring about someone's story. But what the heck is holistic therapy versus the other modalities?
Yeah, you painted a great picture there in acknowledging that the word holistic really just means whole person, right? Like we're taking this all-encompassing view of somebody rather than just looking at one symptom or one area of what they're struggling with. So what most people are familiar with in the mental health space is traditional talk therapy, psychotherapy. And that's mainly concerned with cognitive patterns. It's concerned with our mental patterns, thoughts, and behaviors. And I think that's a great start for most people. It's really wonderful to build a level of awareness around your thought patterns, around your beliefs, and kind of the way your mind works. And even being able to acknowledge, identify, and talk about your emotions, especially for people who didn't have that experience growing up. Maybe it wasn't a safe thing to be able to talk about their emotions. And then at a certain point, we need to bring the other parts of ourself into the equation. If we're just focused on the mind, we're going to continue to feel like we're running in circles through the same thought patterns, through the same conversations about our emotions, because we're not actually feeling them. We're not actually understanding what's going on in our body and in our nervous system. So the holistic approach usually includes different modalities that address mind, body, spiritual self, emotional self, all these different aspects of ourself to understand, why am I perpetuating this pattern in my life? Or why do I feel stuck in this area? And then actually getting to transform it rather than just stopping at the level of intellectualization.
Beautiful example. As a dancer, I think I got everything backwards because I always learned that, I started dancing out of being brought up in a ballet studio, and
Mm.
the playpen was put on a stage, and that was my bar. And I was 18 months old or even younger. By the time I was 3 or 4, I was in a leotard in the studio. So I learned to express myself through my body, through movement, through rhythm, jumping, darting, gliding, twirling, collapsing, vibrating, all the different seven types of movement and with the body and dance. But I didn't express myself through my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I always learned to keep my mouth shut. Never ask questions. Children were meant to be seen and not heard. All these little messages I heard as a child. I also learned by watching my older sisters who, whenever they got in trouble or, mistakes they had made, I learned by saying, well, I'm not going to do that. So I really learned to express myself through my body and music and dance, but I never spoke my truth. And then I found yoga when I
Mm-hmm.
left the dance world. And what was different about that was, nobody in dance, everything is, you have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Your hair has to be perfect, your makeup, your costume, the lights, the scenery, everything has to just be, well, choreographed, right? And yoga, there's no choreography. I mean, well, there is, but if you don't do it, no, you don't get, the director doesn't come over and slap you on the wrist and say, do that again, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, you're just allowed to be a little bit more of yourself, depending on the style, right? Unless it's Bikram, and that's another conversation. But it's not even called Bikram anymore, and that's a
Right.
whole nother
Yeah, that's
conversation. I can talk to my yogis out there. So I think it's called 26-2 now. It's like, whatever. So we brand everything, which is pathetic in the United States. So we
mm-hmm.
brand water, for God's sake, right? But I was so used to not talking. And when I finally broke out of that and started to share my feelings and my story, it got me in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't like what I had to say. My truth made them angry and feel lots of emotions that they didn't want to deal with because I had kept my mouth shut for so long. And I got TMJ,
Mm-hmm.
resorption in a tooth, nodules on my vocal cords. I had my tonsils taken out. Um, I had a dysfunctional eustachius tube between my ear and my throat. You name it. I could go on with all of the ailments. Oh, did I mention tinnitus? So some people say tinnitus, call it what you want. So I think I mentioned like 6 or 7 things that were between my nose and my throat because of my clamping down. Oh, I also ground my teeth and had
Mm-hmm.
braces and a retainer. You name it. If it's somewhere in there, I've had it. So, and I know that it was because I kept my damn mouth shut from birth until I wrote my book. And it really pissed a lot of people off, being honest. And many people said they read it and knew that everything in it was truthful and honest, and they still couldn't deal with the truth. And it's very telling. I share that story with many people I often see someone say, I have fibromyalgia, or I have Meniere's disease, or thyroid, or what's it, Hashimoto's syndrome. And I'm not trying to impress you with my medical knowledge, because I'm not diagnosing people, but they just throw in like this, that, all these ailments, particularly all the ones in endonitis, because
Mm.
it's inflammation and swelling, and then all these autoimmune disease weird things that come up with the food allergies, and the gut this and the gut that, and the you know anytime somebody has autoimmune disease, a little light bulb in my head goes off and goes, well,
Hmm.
what secrets are you keeping? So,
Yeah.
I just share my own personal journey, because I know that if I had, well, found the way of slowly starting to find my voice, and not just had it come out like a vomit, emotional, vomiting just coming out of all at once, it probably would have done less harm to myself and others. But we live and learn. And here I am at the ripe old age of 60 now, having had all those life experiences. You've had a boatload yourself. So, and it's not about me, but I like to share, like, I get it, how
Yeah.
everybody's gone through that. So, as a holistic therapist, if you had met me back when I was 23, knowing what I did, how would your work have helped? Not necessarily me as the guinea pig, but someone with a situation like that, who hadn't been connecting the
Hmm.
body with this, all of the different holistic aspects of the being. It takes a lot of courage to feel confident enough to go to a therapist, to say,
Yeah.
I'm really struggling and I need help. How do you help them with that type of situation?
Yeah, it's such a great question, and it's so important to acknowledge that we all have these different kind of signs and tells about when something is off, when there's an imbalance or a misalignment or inflammation, right? Our body's going to tell us. And you listed a whole host of conditions that so many women are facing these days. Autoimmunity is on the rise more than ever, and you throw a stone and you'll meet somebody who has chronic digestive issues or skin issues or hormonal imbalances, like any number of things. So we've got that, and then we've got the tell of, okay, maybe a lot of these issues are concentrated in one part of the body. So for you, it was like the neck, the thyroid, the throat. And there's this pattern of not being able to speak your truth, not feeling safe to express verbally, vocally, to speak up. And you can often see those patterns play out in relationships as well. So you specialize in the realm of divorces. When we're navigating a relationship ending, whether it's a marriage or otherwise, there's the pain and the trauma of that. But that's usually not where it began. For most of us, it goes back much further. All of these issues, relationship issues, health issues, issues with our confidence, pretty much all stem from childhood. We've all got these core wound patterns, attachment wounds, relational wounds that from a young age caused us to learn to adapt. Maybe we learned that it wasn't safe for us to speak up, that we'd get in trouble when we did. So we learned to stifle and not express. Maybe we learned that we had to perform or achieve to earn love, to be good enough for the family unit that we grew up in or the community or school that we were in. And so we developed this pattern of perfectionism, of like never being good enough. I always have to strive for more, overwork, overgive. And then we end up in burnout, right? And absolute exhaustion and fatigue, and we can't do anymore because we've pushed ourselves so hard past our body's limits, not listening to those messages. In relationships, there's often patterns of self-abandonment, right? Like losing ourselves to appease the other person, to make sure they stay happy so that we don't lose their love and lose that connection. And there's usually some imprint, some memory of that in the body, of feeling like a parent or caretaker or loved one pulled away or withdrew, right? Wounds around abandonment or rejection or separation. All of these are what I help people to understand so that we can have a sense of validation of like, okay, these recurring issues make sense. These health issues, these relationship issues, they all stem from somewhere. I feel validated in that. And there's something I can do about it. So I help people understand how to speak the language of their nervous system, to speak the language of their body, to get to know all of their inner parts, like parts of ourself, inner child, those younger versions of us who are still in many ways like stuck in the time of that original wound, stuck in that old trauma. We call it trauma time. There's actually like an sort of encapsulation that happens in the brain when there's a traumatic memory to sort of wall it off from the other parts of the brain as a protective mechanism. And when you live that way long enough, it just feels like you're normal, right? Like that's the norm. I don't know any different. But when you slowly begin to bring healing to those parts and create new neural pathways and connections that signal safety in yourself and safety in your relationships with other people and safety in your body, to begin to restore a sense of health again. Little by little, you get to reclaim this relationship with yourself, all parts of yourself, the parts that you used to judge and feel shame about, as well as the parts that you want to celebrate and amplify and enhance. So I really like people to understand that in getting into this work, the point isn't just to like rehash old trauma and to talk about really painful things and to like stay in the pain of that. The point is to bring healing to the parts that hurt so that you don't have to be bound by those old stories anymore.
And that's a beautiful thing, is determining that you're not your trauma and you're able to heal it. And retelling those old cyclical, whether it be a hamster wheel or a Ferris wheel or a merry-go-round or whatever wheel you're stuck on, when we can step off that and not keep reliving the story, you're now able to witness it, watch it, and not be it. Then you are no longer the trauma. You're able to step back and distance yourself from it, by calling it, naming it, claiming it, and then learning from it. And much of the trauma that we all go through, whether it be childhood, relational, marriage, divorce, careers, bankruptcy, all kinds of
Life.
things. Life, we'll just call it life, right, Megan? It's not who you are. That's one of the beautiful things I learned from my 2,000 plus hours of yoga teacher training with my teacher, Rod Stryker. He wrote a book called The Four Desires. And one of it, really learning witness consciousness. And, we are not our mind. We are that which experiences our mind thinking. And we are not our trauma. We are that which experiences the traumatic event. Right? You have to sort of separating that. So it does make a big difference. And of course, teaching, I don't know how many yoga classes and yoga teacher trainings and all that doesn't help. It doesn't hurt. But thank you for pointing that out. And, there is sort of, some people use, language like the pain body and different terminology that, it's not my expertise, but I've heard that enough where it does help you truly understand that there are different bodies. In yoga, we call them koshas or layers, where you think of it as almost like the layers of an onion, right? So you have the external fine paper skin, and you peel that away, and then there's another layer and another layer, and it takes many, many layers to get to the core of the being, and that's the essence of really who you are. It isn't the senses and your memory and your attachment. It's more of that spirit and soul of the essence of you, just as you were when you were born, before any of these life experiences had occurred in your life, and you're able to return to that pure being of just light. So we're getting very philosophical here. I love this. So
I
I
love it
can't talk
too.
with too many people, because it's funny, because I wear my hair in a bun and a blue suit and an attaché case, and I walk into court, and people have no idea that I have this holistic, very deep knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads and the sutras and all different other Osho and Rumi and all kinds of philosophies. And but on the other hand, I hang out with my woo-woo friends that wear tie-dye and feather earrings and don't shave their legs. All my birth doula people. And I'm being stereotypical. I hope I didn't offend anybody, but the stereotype of that kind of boho, crunchy feel, and everybody that's going down to Peru to do all these experiences, they don't really, we talk and they're like, wow, you really know a lot about like finance and law and divorce and litigation, and like, how do you know all that stuff, if they ask. And usually word gets out, somebody's like, oh, you're going through a tough time, you should talk to Paulette. So
Mm.
it's very full dimensional, right, Megan, of being a fully evolved, holistic person, right? Is not
Mm-hmm.
seeing yourself as fitting into a nice, neat little box. And that was one thing that I felt as a young child, that I did have to fit into that nice little neat box of, my hair was quite brown or red when I was a kid. It's a little red, but my mother started coloring my hair at the age of 4. So it was platinum.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she wanted me to look just like her. So at age
Mm.
4, my hair was like platinum. I mean, it was blonde. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I had jet black hair and brown eyes, but she wanted me to be her, and
Mm.
and I'm not saying she did it to be mean or damaging. And probably her eyes, it was a compliment, like. But I think I was 11 to 12 when I finally begged her to stop coloring my hair, like, please.
Yeah.
And the smell, and and I was starting to become a teenager. And I think I was in between 6th and 7th grade. I said, that's it. I can't have you coloring my hair anymore. And she got so
Right.
mad at me.
Mm.
Yeah, anytime I didn't follow the rules and do as I was told without asking questions. So I learned to do what? I stopped asking questions once
Yeah.
I let everyone make my decisions for me, because if they didn't work out, I wasn't to blame. And if
Mm.
I did express my wishes or thoughts or feelings, they were not accepted very well. And the amount of damage it does to people, I
Yeah.
see it a lot in divorce, where one person doesn't feel seen or heard or validated, and they don't really have a clear definition of healthy love. It's sad, but it's
Yeah.
true. But you can change that. So
Absolutely.
Megan, you do talk about the 6 types of love and when we need each one. And I don't know that we have time to go through each one completely in depth, but would you do us the justice of explaining what those 6 different types of love are?
Yeah. So I like talking about different types of love when we're in a conversation about relationships, because something I think that has happened, especially in Western culture, is this pedestalization of romantic love, of like the nuclear family unit being the most important, significant thing that you could ever strive for. And that if you don't have romantic love, if you don't have that partner, there's this kind of stigma or shame, like something's wrong with you, nobody chose you, like there's something wrong if you don't have romantic love. And I think that especially for women, can create this sense of low self-worth around being single, and can make it really hard to want to explore and build a relationship with yourself. And it makes it a lot easier to end up in relationships with the wrong people if we think that relationship is the ultimate goal rather than healthy relationship, fulfilling relationship, a relationship based on your connection to yourself and your core values, and building from that place. And so when we talk about love, most people think romantic love. If you hear the word love, you think rom-coms, you think love stories and love letters, and you think marriage and that particular vision of partnership, which maybe looks a little bit different for everybody, like different flavors of it, but the same basic recipe. When we do that, we do a major disservice to all the other types of love that are just as valuable, if not more so. And that can include familial love, so the relationships you have with your family members, platonic love, the beautiful, deep, rich relationships you build with your friends, your chosen family, community love, the love and care that we have and give and receive from the communities that we live in. We have environmental love, so the kind of like connection to not just your immediate community, but to nature, to the planet that we live on, to like this whole thing that we're a part of here. And the fifth one, the fifth form of external love, I refer to it as higher love, and that's going to look different for everybody. For some people, that's their relationship with God or the universe, spirit, source, just a sense that there's something bigger than just you and your personal human problems. And then the sixth one, self-love, which is probably the one most people forget to prioritize, that relationship with self. And that one is non-negotiable. No matter what, we need to continue to work on fostering that relationship with self at all times, because that's the foundation for every other relationship we'll have in our lives. If you've self-abandoned, if you've disconnected from your authentic self and building a relationship with those parts of you, it's going to be very hard to maintain a healthy reciprocal relationship with anybody else, a partner, children, friends, family. So that one has to be the foundation, no matter what. Then if we have 2 to 3 of the other types of love at any given time, we are good. So it can be any 2 to 3. It can be really rich friendships. It can be amazing relationships with children or your parents or siblings. It could be a partner. It could be your connection to your community. But you're not lacking if you don't have one of those, if you don't have that romantic partner. That's really what I like to encourage people to begin to reevaluate in their lives.
Thank you for that lesson. That's very helpful. I do believe that we all understand that there are different aspects and emotions and experiences tied to love. Um, as a child, naturally, there's mother love, and as we evolve and, grow into our own version of self, but love feels very different to different people. But you're so correct. Most people see love as Valentine's Day, where
Mm-hmm.
you have this twin flame, this soulmate, you have this passion and, like wild, sexual, romantic romance. And it's just this, I don't know, hearts everywhere, it's all um, balloons and roses and swans on the bed, right? I'm trying to give you a picture here, right? But that isn't always what it is, right? That's just a little aspect of that. And unfortunately, the narcissist word is thrown out so often now. I'm not sure if it was the word of the year in 2023, because last year was Gaslight 2024. I'd be very curious to find out what 2025's word is going to be. But we see this self-love as being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it can be if it really does go over the top, but you absolutely must take care of yourself. And it's the saying of when you're on the airplane that you have to put your oxygen mask on first. Or let's
Mm-hmm.
just face it, if you have to put the oxygen mask on a child or somebody else, you can't if you're dead. You have to take care of yourself. I do remember having 3 little kids when I was, my 20s and 30s. And I would wonder why I had a stomach ache. And it was because I hadn't gone to the bathroom. And I mean, just pee, like I would forget to eat. I would forget to drink water. I would forget to just, oh my God, oh, my bladder's going to explode. And it would start to be like a stomach ache because it would, and like, okay, it's been 9 hours. No wonder, and we're so thirsty or so tired and just, and, no one to blame but myself. But sometimes divorce can feel like love gets muddy and confused. And when romantic love or that, you know, that vision of perfect love that we have I'm going to blame Valentine's Day, right? Or anniversaries, when that falls apart, uh, people forget that there are the other 5 parts of it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to rebuild the others and that first or second or wherever it is on the hierarchy or ladder, and wherever you are right now, it does come around, that's but always having it be that core of self first, and it grows out, to the community and the environment and the world, and higher calling and longing, so which I like to think of as dharma. It's very helpful to see that as um, that they're connected, but they're different, right? And we're not, like you said, failures or losers or bad if we don't have all six in perfect harmony 24
Yeah.
7 all the time. It's very real, unrealistic, right? To feel that sense of perfection, right? So
Yeah.
I appreciate this conversation. I do know that those going through divorce are always seeking answers and guidance and help with feeling less abandoned, less broken, less fearful, less stressed. And when you can really identify with the feelings and where you feel them in the body kinesthetically, right? So it isn't just naming it like sadness, but where in the body do you feel the sadness, and how to release that by calling it, journaling it, naming it, just processing it is very important for you to start to amp up your self esteem, self inner knowingness, and self love. It helps if you start with the self. And I interviewed someone earlier before this one. Her name is Andrea, and she has helped 33,000 people go on dates and has facilitated over 10,000 weddings, and talk about, an opposite conversation. So I really love these conversations. It's always fun to meet people. I know that I would enjoy working with you as a holistic therapist if I had met you back when I was 22, but you probably were not born. So I manifested this conversation. So, what is the best way for people to learn more about you, Megan? And I dare I say stalk you. I hate that word, but in social media, or learn more about you, read about you, understand your story, and potentially, explore the healing journey themselves and working with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paulette, for saying that. I've enjoyed this conversation too. And I also want to say that in regards to that dichotomy between, the woman who's facilitating dating and relationships versus me talking about choosing your relationship with yourself, I don't think the two have to be mutually exclusive. I've never been of the mindset of it's like this empowered, it's just me and me, and I've got myself and I don't need anyone else. We are social creatures. We're hardwired for connection. We do need relationship, but when you prioritize that relationship with self first, you get to this place where you can choose a partner from an authentic place rather than from that needy place of like, if I don't have somebody, then I feel shame. I feel like there's something wrong with me, or from a conditioned place from playing out childhood wounds and patterns from the relationships that we grew up around. So yeah, I think it's the foundation for being able to go out into the world and date again and choose love from that empowered place. So if that's something that people are excited to learn more about, you can stalk me on social media. My handle is my name. It's Megan Sherer. My website is also Megan Sherer. That's where you can find out about my offerings, my one-on-one work, my retreats, and then my new book, which you mentioned, comes out May 6th. That one's called Choose Yourself. I have a copy of it here. And
Ooh,
I'll be going on a little workshop tour when that book comes out in May and June. So if you're in one of the cities I'm stopping in, would love to see you and connect with you in person.
I would love that. In fact, I would love a autographed copy of your book.
Oh, you got it. No problem. Yeah,
So
I will make
look
sure you get one.
into Megan's book, and her last name is spelled Sherer, and it's Choose Yourself, out May 6th. Well, thank you, Megan. This conversation has been fun. It's nice to know that we can heal and we can choose you can choose yourself, and attracting more aligned relationships by doing this work. It makes the world of difference. So I love helping couples facilitate solutions and help them heal, and particularly those that are in relationships that feel trapped and damaging, and helping them move through that to a new, better version of themselves. I often tell them, your future is more beautiful than you could ever imagine. So
Mm.
thank you, Megan, and everyone that's tuned in for this. Until next time, I want you to make it better. I'll see you soon.